Welcome to the Doktor O'Kay Show. I am Doktor O'Kay, and this is SmackDown from Portland, Oregon, where our main headline is Just Keep Unchaining the Werewolf, and we'll get to that in a minute. So for now, let's start with the matches, and we just keep tightening the grip on the title as Chelsea Green rolls through a crossbody and rolls up Michin, but grabs the tights to retain the title, and Chelsea is the ones, as she did this mostly by herself with her new Secret Service member, Piper Niven, mostly sitting this one out, but she still managed to slap Michin during a commercial break, so she will pick up a fine. But then she later tried to swipe Michin's legs off the apron, but Michin avoided that and hit Piper with a cannonball. But that was enough of an opening for Chelsea to recover and get that roll-up for the win, so that is her fourth singles win in a row and her first successful title defense, and she goes to 1-0 in the new year. That makes Michin the twos, and this was not her best showing, but she still landed a pair of tornado DDTs and a cannonball on Chelsea, as well as that one on Piper, and she unfortunately let that security detail get to her, and she goes to 1-1. Now, I will say these two have done it better in other matches, so we're gonna give this one a not okay. In our second match, we just keep going back to the classics as Elektra Lopez distracted the referee, which allowed Santos Escobar to swipe out Elton Prince's legs off of the turnbuckle and allowed Los Garza to finish him off with an NTY to get the win. So Los Garza is the one, and when Legado del Fantasma is together, you can expect some tomfoolery, as this was exactly from page 1 of their playbook, and a little disconcerting that they had to use it against Pretty Deadly, but it is their first tag win since August, so they really needed this one, and they go to 1-0 and will be in a #1 contenders match next week. And that makes Pretty Deadly the twos, and they both attack before the bell, so they'll both get fines. But again, the referee rang the bell during this attack, so yet again, what were you thinking, referees, as they still cannot figure this out? But if I had to wear those hideous new shirts, maybe I wouldn't care so much because they are that plain awful. But for Pretty Deadly, it's a new year, but the same result, and they go to 0-1, and then they also went back and complained to DIY later, but unfortunately for them, DIY said there's too much heat on Pretty Deadly right now, but they will work to get them that title shot in the future. However, Apollo Crews had something to say about that, saying to Pretty Deadly that will never happen. And it wouldn't matter if that match didn't happen either, so we'll give it a not okay. In our next match, we just keep forgetting who you're messing with as LA Knight helped WWE officials and security guards eject Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga from the building. So then they decided to make sure that Knight did not get the pin after a BFT to force a disqualification in their United States Championship rematch. But for our purposes, LA Knight is the ones, and after an even battle for several minutes, he was able to land a megastar elbow and later a superplex before finishing it off with the BFT. But when he crawled for that cover, the New Bloodline came out and broke up the pin, and then he got hit with a pop-up Samoan drop and a Mighty Moonsault. So that attack by the New Bloodline is upgraded to a 1-week suspension for interrupting a championship match. And at the least for LA Knight, it does get him a DQ victory, but not what he wanted, which of course is that US title back. Nonetheless, he gets the win to go to 1-0. That means Nakamura is the twos, and he went back to the well of exposing the middle turnbuckle. However, Knight noticed it right away and was able to stop himself from flying into it. But later, Nakamura landed a Kinshasa, but he was just a little bit too close to the ropes as Knight was able to get his foot on that rope. However, Nakamura kept going and lined up a second Kinshasa with Knight's head firmly planted on that exposed turnbuckle, but Knight avoided it, and that meant Nakamura's knee hit hard into that turnbuckle, and it allowed Knight to hit the BFT. Later in the night, you may have noticed a graphic on the screen that called this match a no contest. However, we cannot go with what the graphics guy on TV says. So, of course, we had to look to our two official sources later, and they did indeed confirm this was a DQ loss for Nakamura. And unfortunately for LA Knight, he poked the wrong werewolf, and that was not very smart of him, so this gets a not okay. In our next match, we just keep unloading that final round of ammunition as the Motor City Machine Guns use their pinpoint timing on their patented team moves to overwhelm A-Town Down Under and land the Skull and Bones on Austin Theory to pick up a win. So the Machine Guns are the ones, and they always seem a bit methodical for me, but they do have plenty of experience and teamwork. And that worked in this particular match as they fired their bullets at the right time to get a 1-0-1 in traditional tags so far in 2025. And more importantly, they will face Los Garza to become the #1 contenders next week. And A-Town Down Under is the twos, and they put up a decent effort in this one, but it was over after Waller was caught trying his second rolling flatliner of the match. But perhaps they can learn from a much more well-oiled machine than they are, because they've now lost 6 straight tags and are 0-1 this year. And we still can't get behind what these creative fighters are doing all the way, so we're gonna give this a not okay. Up next, we just keep planting a seed as the #1 contender as Bayley rose plants Naomi at the end of a frenetic sequence to become the #1 contender to take on the new champion, Tiffany Stratton. And it was Nia who interrupted Tiffy's in-ring interview about her cash-in, saying it was quite a Tiffy turn of events, but then Nia said that she could kill her now and that Tiffy's time is up. But Bayley interrupted those two, and then Naomi and Bianca also decided to do the same, and Naomi said that she had Nia beat last year and she could be a double champion right now, but Nia didn't want to hear that, so she headbutted both Naomi and Bianca at the same time, which will give Nia a fine for starting a fight between all 4 of these women. And then Tiffy cleaned up the mess with a prettiest moonsault ever, but then Nick Aldis decided to come out of the back and he declared a fatal 4-way for the #1 contender to face Tiffy next. And after a long match with Nia nearly going 3-on-1 for most of it, Bianca speared Nia, then Bayley landed a Bayley to belly on Bianca, then Naomi with a rear view on Bayley, then Nia with a Samoan drop on Naomi, then Bianca with a moonsault on Bayley, but when she went for a KOD, that was broken up by Candice by her inexplicably grabbing Bianca's braid, because I don't know why you wouldn't let her do the KOD first and then attack her. However, as they struggled with the braid, Bianca accidentally ended up whipping Naomi with it, and Bianca then grabbed Nia and both of them crashed over the announce table. However, that gave Bayley the opening to hit that rose plant on Naomi to become the #1 contender. So Bayley is the ones, and she's 0-1 and will face Tiffy next week for the title. Nia is the twos, and somehow she's already 1-2 in 2 weeks. Bianca is the threes, as this was her first match, so she's 0-1. And Naomi is the fours because she took the pin and is 0-2 already. And while we would have liked to see Bianca and Naomi go at each other, I guess that'll have to be saved for another day. However, there was a lot going on here and 4 very impressive showings by these women, so it gets a double okay. And in our main headline and main event, we just keep unchaining the werewolf as Jacob Fatu wreaked havoc all night long, and he wasn't done until he finished off Jimmy Uso with an Impaler DDT and a Mighty Moonsault. So the new bloodline is of course the ones, and without Solo Sikoa on site, Jacob Fatu pretty much did what he pleased. And early on, he landed a pop-up Samoan drop, and Tama Tonga also got into the action with an impressive head shrinker DDT. And this was their first tag team together since they won the tag team titles in August. And then of course Tonga Loa took that title from Fatu, so they didn't even get to defend it. Nonetheless, this year, those two are 1-1. And that means Rhodes and Jimmy Uso are the twos in this very strange pairing, but they did have a nice superplex Uso splash combo on Tama Tonga, and then Rhodes landed a super Cody cutter on Fatu. However, when Kevin Owens came out and ran down the ramp, Rhodes abandoned the match to fight Owens. So Jimmy tried his best, landing a spear on Tama Tonga, but Fatu had enough of that, and he was the one to finish it off. So this very strange pairing goes to 0-1. Now of course, Rhodes and Owens kept fighting backstage, and then it came back around to the side of the stage where Rhodes tackled Owens off an equipment box and through 2 tables. However, KO was the one who clearly was coming down the ramp to fight this time, so it'll be KO who gets the fine here. And I guess you have to say that this was an appropriate ending to a wild night, and even though this match probably didn't really mean much, it gets an okay. So with that, let's go beyond the mat for SmackDown and stay with this cast of characters, because it was Paul Heyman who started off the night, and he asked Cody Rhodes to come to the ring to tell him a spoiler, which is that he was authorized to announce Roman Reigns will be joining the Royal Rumble, and when he wins it, he will fight Cody Rhodes for the championship. So before Rhodes could respond to that news, KO interrupted from the crowd, and he told Rhodes that he shook hands with The Rock, and then just shook hands with Heyman, and then 30 seconds later, he was told that Reigns was interrupting the Royal Rumble, and that of course is all Cody Rhodes' fault. And if Reigns does indeed get that title back, then KO said that Rhodes will have hurt the entire company. Which of course, we know is all true because, as always, KO is right. And since Rhodes cannot handle the truth, he ran out of the ring and up the steps to fight KO, and those two fought all the way back to the concourse. And we will have to give Rhodes a fine for instigating that attack. And then Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga came out of nowhere for their first appearance of the night, and they cornered Paul Heyman. But Jimmy Uso ran out and made the save with 3 straight super kicks, 2 hip attacks, and then 2 chair shots. But Fatu recovered very quickly from taking that chair shot, and those two double-teamed Jimmy, and they put that steel chair around Jimmy's neck, just like Tonga and Sikoa had done on the first SmackDown after WrestleMania. However, lots of officials came out, and 2 very brave but stupid souls came out, and they were both super kicked by Fatu, which of course was nice, and we'll have to give Fatu a 1-month suspension for that attack. But this gave Rhodes just enough time to make the save for Jimmy and clear the ring. But why would Cody do that, since, you know, he should still be fighting the Bloodline instead of helping them? And then after the commercial break, Aldis and some security guards were still trying to get Fatu and Tonga out of the building. So Fatu was not pleased with that, and he decided to push several security guards, so we'll have to give him another 2-week suspension for that. But LA Knight decided to walk on past and temporarily took care of both of the new Bloodline members. But since, as we noted, that was not very smart, and the new Bloodline forced the DQ by attacking Knight, Rhodes and Jimmy came back out, now in a very seemingly awkward pairing. They slammed Fatu into the barricade and then into the steps, and then got both of them over the barricade, with Rhodes then telling Aldis to make that tag match that we already talked about. And since there was so much going on with all of this action and all of this chaos, and of course, when you get KO being right as always and showing Rhodes' hypocrisy, and you take a werewolf off of his chains, we have no choice but to give this a double okay. And we'll note that Solo Sikoa was announced to be returning next week, so we will anxiously await just what's next for him. And we'll also briefly note that Jimmy smacked down Carmelo Hayes, saying that he shoots so many bricks that he could build a house, and that was quite the burn, but also quite true. However, if there's anyone that Hayes could beat, it's Jimmy, but I guess for this interaction, we'll give that an okay. If you missed your shot to see the first two parts of my 2024 grades, all ready for 93 superstars, be sure to go right on over here and check that out. Otherwise, I'll be calling for the new bloodline to come after you, just like Jacob Fatu did all night, and I'm not gonna tell him that he should stop, so I'll give this an okay.